Hello. I'm going to show how to set up our AR foundation now. It's pretty simple to do. There's like small things that you always need to do and set up for it, but and it's a bit hard to show the end result because well, you have to build it to a phone and test it through your phone. So I'm gonna show you the initial setup. Please follow along if you can, if you have the time, and I'll show you guys in class because the class is now gonna focus on AR, of course, not VR. So next class, not gonna be much of VR. We're gonna fidget and play around with AR. All right. The first thing you need to do is go to Window and then Package Manager. And then we have to go to the Unity registry to find Unity's packages. Whoa, don't freak out. And then I think this should be fine. It has a bit too much packages, but we can install it. The main thing is that, let's see, you have AR Core, which is for Android, and it's the normal AR Core package. So yeah, it will have planes and rendering to detect surfaces through dots, and you can place objects on it and so on. Then you also get the AR Kit plugin, which is for iPhone, and then you have your OpenXR, which is like it uses them to do input and other cool functions and stuff, classes. Anyway, yeah, so I would suggest just going to AR and clicking install. And it's going to ask you to restart for input. If you're setting up input system for a normal game, it'll also ask you this. And I would suggest then saying no, and then in the project settings, changing the input to both the new input and the old input. But since this is in AR, you'll most likely use phone inputs and so on instead of the input system. So you can just click yes. It should be fine. Cool. It's gonna restart, of course. There we go. Dang, it's taking long. I'm not gonna edit this out, as it'll just be part of it. You'll just have to like, what do you call it? Just deal with it. But it's not that long, at least. Cool. At least it's real time. Cool. So now that that's imported, you might think like, yeah, you can just click things and it'll work. Not really. We need to go to Unity Hub first. And that's because this is obviously built for Android or iOS, but Android. So if you open Unity Hub, if you go to installs, and then click on this cogwheel and say add modules. So I already did it. I already have Android build support ticked, but just go in and say Android build support and make sure it includes OpenJDK and Android SDK and NDK tools. And if you scroll down, there should be one for iOS somewhere. Oh wait, I think we don't have iOS because this is Windows. We don't get that. Oh, here it is. I'm dumb. iOS build support. Just tick it as well. It'll be a kind of quick download. Depends on the internet. But yeah, you don't need the iOS one if you're not going to make for iOS though. So it's fine. Cool. And then if you go to edit and project settings, you'll find all these tabs for your project settings. And we want to focus on Android. iOS is kind of similar, but yeah, Android. And there's a couple of things we need to change, otherwise it's not going to work properly. So if we go to resolution and presentation, let's check it out. There's not much to change here. Just want to run through and make sure I don't miss anything. Cool, that seems fine. The first thing I want to change is the scripting backend from Mono to AL to CPP. Alright, and then you can see this complaint that it has here. So just choose ARM64. And then let's see what else is there that we have to change. This right here. The minimum API level needs to be 7.0. Because before that, I don't think AR was supported. And our target can just be the highest. It doesn't matter too much. Let's see. There's a couple of small things you have to change. And if you don't change them, it won't really run. These all seem fine. Let me see what else is there as well. Cool. Okay, so there's one more thing which I'll have to find because it's always so hard to find. It's like tucked away somewhere. Let's see. Apply the display rotation. I think it is in other settings. It should be something like, oh, here it is. Auto Graphics API. So I have to turn it off, and we have to remove Vulkan, because phones with AR Foundation, which is what we imported there, doesn't support Vulkan. It's OpenGL, so just remove Vulkan, and that's it. I think that should be it for these settings. That should be it. Hopefully. Okay, cool. And there's other thing we have to change, which you guys haven't had to deal with before. And that is this universal render pipeline thing, but although it's not that one. So if you go to settings, you'll see it here. It's most likely a high fidelity one. So there are two versions of it. Let me make it a list so you can see better. High fidelity and the renderer. The renderer is actually called the forward render, and it has like the base settings, like it's like the foundation of the backend. And then the high fidelity normal preset, like the balance and high fidelity and performance, that has other settings like depth, texture, and so on, and lighting settings, shadow settings, post-processing, all that stuff. We don't have to worry about this though. We're going to focus on high fidelity render. But what I wanted to do is actually find what version you are working with. And to do that, you have to go to Edit, Project Settings, click on, I think it's Quality, no? Graphics. And then you'll see here it says scriptable render pipeline settings. So this is all to do with URP and how URP functions. So this will be the URP profile that you're working with. If there isn't one there, then you're not working in URP. So I would recommend making a new project in URP. Well, you could also go to Window and then Package Manager and then Unity Registry. And then scroll down or go down to URP, Universal RP, and install it. And once it's installed, then you can go to graphics and set your profile here. There should be ones made automatically. And then also at quality, you'll have to input it here. And to make it, you right click, create, and then let's find it. I never have to make it because it's automatically there. So let's see, it should be your P. It's not visual scripting. That's to make an actual shader. It's here somewhere. It's here somewhere. Ba -ba -da. Oh, rendering. and then you can say your P asset. Yeah, you could just make one of those, and you can see it will make its own renderer as well. But I'm just gonna delete these because I don't need them. And then you would drag these in there. But yeah, go to graphics or quality, click on this option here. And then if you're not sure what Ford renderer it's using, it'll be in the renderer list at the top here. So this, we know it's this one right here, but I just want to show you how you can find your own. So you can click on it, you'll see it here, and then that's it. So what you have to do here is click on add render feature, and then it's very simple. Just AR background render feature. And that's that. You don't have to do anything with it other than that. Cool. And now we can actually, make it do its magic. So I'm first going to, I want to organize the scene, but it's fine. You have to right click on XR, and then there are two important things we have to add. We're also going to add a point cloud, which is going to be fun. And that's going to be the end of the video. We'll continue on in class. You have the error session, which handles the backend of error session. It's all the scripting protocols and things for it to make it run. You can see it as the brain. And then there's the AR session origin, which is where all your AR objects will exist. And this will run continuously, like an update. So this is where you'll put your objects so that when you place them on a surface, they will stay there and you can move your camera around them. So that's very cool. So make an AR session and XR AR session origin. Very simple. The next we want to add, and here's the thing, right? You're supposed to actually at this point just build the game. So before you add AR session and origin, let me delete these. I'm not going to do it because I already tested it out and it does work. If you have problems, we'll check it out in class. Unless you don't watch this video, please watch this video. You're already watching this video if you hear me say that. It's fine, don't worry about it. So before we actually add those, just build first to make sure it actually kind of, it builds at least. This build, you don't have to open on your phone. You can just build it. So you go to File, Build Settings, and then you want to change it to Android. And of course, just add your open scene. So click on this button. If it's already a scene, it's fine. Otherwise, just make sure it has this one scene in it, whatever scene that is. On Android, you don't have to change anything here. The one thing you can change is this development build thing. That is if you're gonna debug and you want to show it in a console on your phone, but it will just work as is. So just leave it as is for now. And then what you want to do is after you clicked on Android, is to click on Switch Platform, and this will basically change your builder, your builder to support Android. It's a completely different setup. Sorry, my OBS just screamed at me. It's like, oh, we don't have enough processing power. I guess it's because we're doing this. Cool. Cannot build player while editors importing assets. Okay, that's fine. It's still importing. You can just dock the console to the side. And yeah, those are not really errors. If you can delete errors by clicking clear, they're not really errors. Or they're not meant for you. Okay, still importing, still doing things. Cool. Other than that, you don't have to do anything for setup. So now we can click build. And then in here, I'm just going to say new folder called builds. And then give it a name. So this will just be initial test build. But you don't have to type what I type. Just think of something. Yeah. And type it. First build, test build. All right, save. So this build isn't, like I said, to actually put it on your phone. It's just to make sure it actually builds. Because there can be errors where you build and it's like, actually, we don't like this setting. and then you change the setting, and then you know, okay, at least you can build. And then from there, you can start setting up AR. And building for AR is kind of a slip because you have to build the APK and put it on your phone somehow, maybe through Google Drive or through a cable, and then you test it that way. There is another solution, which is a plugin for Unity that allows you to play it through a USB cable to your phone and test it out that way. I'll show you guys that in either the next class or a class after that. But I first want you guys to go through this pain of building it, putting it on your phone, and doing that, so you can see how it is. I mean, it's not that bad. It's just it takes time to develop for it. It's similar to how in VR you have to test by putting on the headset, playing around with it, taking it off, and so on. All right, this is taking pretty long, but that's just how it is. Also, while it's importing, if you build the scene of the game and it's black, like a black screen, then it might just be, oof, it doesn't want me to allow me to do anything. It might just be that you didn't set the render feature in the port render. So one way to make sure it works if you're paranoid is to set all three the balanced, high fidelity, and performant renders render feature. So I'll do that now as well. Because although it says, high fidelity in the project settings, I don't know, I'm still paranoid that it might not be correct. And I just set for all three so that I don't have to deal with that issue. But yeah, I'm actually curious to see how much it's using. Let's see, 98%. Never mind, that was something else. There it is. Unity is using pretty much a lot. Like, pretty, yeah, pretty much a lot. I guess that's a word. It's using 65% of my GPU. What? That's crazy. CPU? Whoa. The poor thing. The poor thing. All that to build an Android game that is empty. Can you believe it? All right, I paused the recording because it's gonna take so long. It took really long, but there we go. It built. So all you need is this initial test build.apk. It's just a normal APK. Cool. So we can confirm it builds. If yours doesn't, then you skipped a step. You can see it says basically 10 minutes, which is crazy. But that's just the first build. Build from here on out should be fine. So all we need to do now is go back to XR and select the error session and also the error session origin. And now technically we have AR. It doesn't really do anything yet or work. I guess it could work by now. by itself. But what I wanted to do as a last bit for this video or exercise is to add an AR default point cloud. There it is. And then what you do in the AR session origin, because remember this holds all of your objects and stuff that has to be moved around in the scene, is add an AR point cloud manager. So this AR point default point cloud will contain the AR point cloud script, the point cloud particle visualizer, and also a particle system. So it'll show particles for where flat surfaces are. And then in the AR session origin, you add the AR point cloud manager, and you drag in this point cloud into this manager. And that is just to activate it and put input into it where the floor will be and so on, and to start it, I guess. So at this point, we're basically done for this video. That's how you set up AR. If you skip the step, just make sure you don't. And this, if you build it now and put it on your phone and install it, you should, when you open it, see yellow dots and your camera opening. Pretty cool. I don't think we missed anything, but if we did, then I'll cover it in class. But it should be fine. It should be fine. Okay, what I'm gonna do now is show you. Okay, so last time we imported VR and it didn't really want to work. So I'm gonna say file, new scene, just basic Europe is fine. I'll just save it as scene with a couple of E's. Anyway, last time we set up VR or XR toolkit. And the only thing we were missing is the Oculus integration toolkit. But if you added it, it would break. So I'm going to run through how to set up again quickly, very quickly, right? So you go to Package Manager. There it is. And this is a fresh version of it now, fresh install, which I recommend if yours isn't working anyway. And what you want to do is you want to install the XR plugin management. Mine has an update. How exciting. So update. I'm not going to update it then. But anyway, I'll install the XR interaction toolkit. And if you don't have XR plugin management, go to it and also install it. I made a backup. Go ahead. Cool. What you can actually do is just click on VR, I think, and it'll install Oculus XR plugin and Open XR plugin. So we're also going to do that, just so that we have those two set up for us. Otherwise, you have to find them and click on them and install them. Here, it's just already set up. Of course, this is now set up as a Android project, so just do it in a new project. Or it's also kind of fine because, let me just show you. So in our player setting, we have these tabs, right? So if we're building specifically for Android, these are our settings. If we're building for desktop, which is what we're going to do for VR rather, then it has separate settings. So it's actually fine to do it in here. The last thing we need to do is go to XR Interaction Toolkit and import these things. The starter axis. I don't think you need the XR device simulator, but I mean, we'll just do it. It's all Gucci. And here, XR management example implementation. Sure, we don't need it, so I'm not going to install it. All right, then the next thing we want to do before we do anything else is to go to starter assets. So it should be samples, XR interaction toolkit, then that's the numbers, starter assets, and then you have these inputs. So we already did this before. The difference now is before we installed XR interaction toolkit, by going to Package Manager and typing it in from URL. But now we're just doing it through the interaction toolkit right here. It's a newer version anyway, and it runs slightly different. So just add these to inputs to your, just add them. It adds it to the extra interaction toolkit input system. So just click on add for every one of them. So this continuous move, continuous turn, then the input for the left controller, left grab, move, right controller, and right grab, move, snap, turn, and UI input module. Cool. And this is where we got last time before we started setting things up, and then we realized it didn't want to work. There was something wrong. It gave an error. So now we have to go. I'm just gonna say a new window. It's fine. I don't know what is an add there. Don't show again. Cool. So what I'm gonna do is go and say Oculus Integration SDK, or just integration, and it should be the asset store version. You'll have a Unity logo. It'll say Unity Asset Store or Asset Store.unity, and it'll be this name. You'll also see the latest release date is March 15. So if you go to here, March 15, 2023. Oh, I need to sign in. That's always fun. Cool. So yeah, the release is very recent. So it adds like lip sync and stuff like that. I'm not going to use those though, but yeah, that's very cool. So I'm just going to say, you can just say add to my assets and then open Unity. I'm just going to say open in Unity. So this will just give it the SDK so that it actually works. Why doesn't it want to work? I think it's just taking its time. It's just taking its time. Okay, I'm not going to wait for it, but that's what you have to do. I should do it that way. I'm just going to go to my assets. It wants me to sign in. This is so fun. It's like the most fun thing ever. Cool, 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 cool. I don't even know why it signed out. I literally use this a lot. Okay, and then I already have it, so I'm just going to go and say Oculus integration. There it is. So just download it and import it. It's pretty big, 500 megabytes. So here's the deal, right? Is a lot of stuff to add. So you have many ways of input for VR, and we're installing all of them so we can support all of them. I'm not gonna just have you install these and have you also be confused. There are 3 different types of VR and I guess inputs. There's OpenXR, which is like a bare bones setup for VR. It's also the foundation of many packages, such as Extra Interaction Toolkit. But with that, you can manually set up a generic game so that all VR headsets support it, except for Oculus's built-in like Android version. So with that, you'll manually set up your inputs, like your trigger and your hold buttons and your other buttons and so on. And you'll manually set up many things. So it's a lot more work. Then you get an XR Interaction Toolkit, which is different from Oculus integration. You need this for the SDK it has, so that that functions correctly. But the Extra Interaction Toolkit, as well as the Oculus integration, both offer like special ways of setting up input. So you'll have like shortcuts for certain inputs that you won't have to set up yourself. It'll packages like that you can use for like picking up objects and setting up IK drivers for a character and stuff like that. There's a lot of things you can do with it, which I recommend Googling about. The difference is just that Oculus integration is more for setting it up for the headset itself, more than a desktop like PC VR setup. But you can use it for the desktop. It will work. And then XR Interaction Toolkit, that is similar in that it has many functions and systems for you to play around with, like grabbing things and so on. And it also has an example scene, and I recommend working with XR Interaction Toolkit. Uh, it's not the best we have, but it works well. For me, what I used for my honors game is I was too lazy to set up Interaction Toolkit, so I just used OpenXR, manually set up all the inputs. And it's not bad, but we also don't have any cool systems to play around with. So just gonna pause this again, and then I'll be back when it's imported. All right, cool. So you'll get at a point where it kind of finishes, and it's like, do you want to enable this new one? Just always say yes. Just say yes. OpenXR is now fully supported by Oculus. New features such as pass-through API are only supported through the OpenXR backend. So yeah, just say use OpenXR, it's fine. All right, cool. All right, just gonna restart it. I'll be back now. It's also asking, it performs a cleanup operation which relocates interaction SDK files and folders and removes asset stubs for backwards compatibility. So yeah, just say show assets. It's gonna show you all of these. That's what it's gonna do. It's gonna delete all of those, and it's gonna add all these new ones. Okay, clean up. It might seem scary, but it's fine. Don't worry about it. If we're going to add Oculus integration onto your project that isn't set up properly, like the one we set up in class, it might work, it might not work, but yeah. Just say upgrade for this one. There's an audio spatializer as well. Please restart the Unity editor. Okay, I'll be back. Now just click on restart, and then yeah, I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. I basically just paused the video, so don't worry about it. Just want to show you, it says here, the Oculus integration brings advanced rendering, social platform audio and avatar development for Oculus VR devices and some OpenVR supported devices. It contains Audio Manager, Avatar, Interaction SDK. So Interaction SDK, well, it does say it here, a library of modular composable components that allow developers to implement a range of robust, it's just interactions they can set up pretty easily. Just click enable, and that should be it. No, it's gonna restart. Okay, I'll be back now. Right, mine just opened up. And there we go. Now you have VR setup. There's no errors here or anything like that. And now we're just gonna basically set it up like last time. So XR, and then we need an XR origin, but we actually want XR origin VR specifically. And then input should be set up automatically, and the camera offs and so on. So this will already have VR hands. You would actually be able to just play this, and it'll have these wands that you can, move your hands around with. You won't be able to move though. So what you want to add, let me think. It was called continuous. Yeah, so continuous move provider, action based. This one here. You want to add that one. Add component. Then the continuous turn provider. So I don't think you add it here. Oh, I think it's this one here. I actually forgot because I'm keeping mixed up with the different kinds of input. So this interaction manager, VR. Well, let me just show you. This should have. What I can do is quickly open up the other project so we can see how it's set up. Ba, 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 da, ba. I'll be back now. So that's one step I forgot, which is to add a locomotion system. And this will allow you to have, input and certain kinds of movement. So it's right click, I think, XR, and then the locomotion system, which is action based. And then in here, you'll have your locomotion system. So just drop in this XR input or origin here. You'll have a teleportation provider and a snap turn provider, which you guys might have experienced in Half-Up Alex as, snapping in certain degrees, left or right, depending on your right input. Which I think you'll see here as snap turn input. Cool, cool, cool. So now you won't be able to move, but you will be able to teleport. So let me show you. You have a teleportation anchor and area. They do the same for the same thing, kind of. So the area would be let me just reset it. If I click highlight here, then it'll teleport me directly to this spot. If I highlight here, it'll teleport me directly to that spot. Whereas with the teleport anchor, let me reset that one as well. It's the same size, don't worry about it. You can see it has this gizmo in the middle. So with this one, if you aim like here, it'll teleport you to this box always. So it'll constrain you to where you can teleport to. So this just depends on what kind of game you want to make. Maybe you have rooms, and if you solve the puzzle in this room, the door opens, and then if you teleport here, it'll go to this next center area. So maybe you just want to force people to be in the center of something, or you want them to teleport to specific areas to experience something, that's all your choice. It's all your choice. Let's see what else there is to play with. You have the grab interactable. So I think oh, there it is. So this will have a rigid body on it and a box cutter, and it'll basically be a physics object that you can grab with your hands. So to set this up, normally you would just make an object and add this extra grab interactable to it. So those are the three types of interactions that you can set up, which is pretty cool. So you can pick stuff up and throw it around and teleport around. But if you want more movement, then you're going to have to add this continuous. So I type in conti, and then you can have the move provider and turn provider. So this will allow you to move with the left joystick around continuously, forward, back, and so on. I don't. Oh yeah, just add the locomotion system to it here. Cool, cool, cool. And it should be set up otherwise. Let's see. Maybe you don't want it to move with the right hand. So just disable that, I guess. But yeah, just remember that if you move around, you can have motion sickness. So it depends on your game. Maybe you just want the teleportation provider, but it's fine. And then the other one is the continuous turn provider, which instead of snapping left to right like this one here, it will rotate left and right. So maybe you want it to be on the right hand and not the left. Don't worry if you click this and it goes away. If you click it again, it'll actually just pop back. So that's fine. Same with the snap turn provider. If you actually just want it, just enable it for the right hand. It's just convention to have left for movement and right for look around, just like in a normal game. And that's that. Now you'll have, I can't really show it now. We will play with it in class when we get to the VR bits. But that's how you set up VR. And there's a lot more you can do with it. But of course the focus is AR. So don't get caught up in this right now. Alright, cool. See you guys in class. Bye bye.